Widowmaker needs a buff, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to make lots of comparisons to Hanzo, and the numbers just don't add up. It's simply not fair. So first, I'm going to quickly talk about Soldier and McCree. Now, I know this is a Widowmaker thing, but trust me, this will make sense. So I feel like McCree is in the same boat as Widowmaker. When you're comparing the two heroes, they should be equal, but they're not. McCree requires a lot more skill, as does Widowmaker. Now, the counterpart would be Soldier. Now, Soldier doesn't require as much skill, but can be equally as good. If played by a lower skilled person, you can actually keep up to a high skilled McCree. Now that shouldn't be the case. Now, the same goes for Widowmaker. You could be an insanely skilled Widowmaker going up against a mediocre Hanzo, and that Hanzo could beat you. And that's crazy to say, because if you were really, really good, one of the best, you should be able to slaughter a mediocre Hanzo. 9 times out of 10, you really should. Now, the reason why Hanzo is better is simply because of all his cooldowns and his mobility and the lack that Widowmaker has. Hanzo has a radar arrow that lasts for 10 seconds. And that radar arrow is on a 20-second cooldown. Now, if you do a little bit of math, you shoot that arrow, it lasts for 10 seconds, and the cooldown starts while the arrow is out. So that means you can have a radar up every single 10 seconds that lasts 10 seconds. That means you have radar for 50% of a match. When you compare that to Widowmaker, a good Widowmaker could potentially get her ult every 30 seconds. And that's fast. You're doing really good if you get your ult in 30 seconds. That ult lasts for 15 seconds, right? Now, if you're going off all game and you're getting your radar every 30 seconds, and when I say radar, I mean your ult, which that is not the case. I mean, you're not going to get your ult every 30 seconds in a match. It's crazy. But you could potentially have the same effect. But that is your ultimate ability. Now, Hanzo, when he gets his ultimate ability, he's slaughtering teams. Right there, they're not even. Hanzo is a far easier hero to play than Widowmaker, yet he's already better. And it's crazy. Now, when you're talking about mobility, Hanzo is always mobile. Now, if you get rushed by a Winston, you're on top of a building, and the Winston jumps. He jumps on top of that building. You simply walk off the building. The Winston follows you, and you run back up the wall and get on top of the building. Now, that Winston can only leap every 6 seconds. That gives the Hanzo 6 seconds of uncontested Winston time to big dick on the Winston. Like, the Winston can lose to a Hanzo. And when you go to a Widowmaker, the hook every 12 seconds with a Widowmaker. So if you jump off the building and you hook back up that same building, the Winston's going to be back up there in 6 seconds. And that gives him 6 seconds to kill you. That's broken. That's not right. Now, when you can compare the same mobility with a Genji or a Sombra or a D.Va. So a Genji dash, if it's not being reset, lasts 8 seconds. And he can climb up walls. So if you're getting chased by a Genji and he dashes and you hook away, your cooldown is now on 12 seconds. His cooldown is on 8. So he could actually get to you with 4 seconds to spare on your hook, and you're not going to be able to get away in that time. He can kill you in 4 seconds very, very easily. Now, same thing goes with Sombra. A Sombra can contest you. A Sombra can go invisible and throw her teleport grenade every 4 seconds. So she could contest you 3 separate times while your hook is on cooldown. That's crazy. And same thing with D.Va. D.Va can use her ability to fly every 5 seconds, and that lasts 2 seconds. She can contest you twice in the time that it takes you to hook away once. Now, I understand that Widowmaker should be contested. I'm not saying she should have the advantage in every situation, but a 12-second cooldown on her hook it's far too low, and it needs to be reduced for her to be on a fair playing field with every single other hero. Every other hero has a counter, but every other hero has a way of defending themselves. Now, I'm not saying that Widowmaker should be invincible to all her counters. That's not the case at all. I'm just simply saying that she is far too easy to counter. Where a hero with such a high skill requirement to play, to be good at, you should have a high reward if you're that talented with that hero. So what can we do to make Widowmaker fair in the mobility department? I'm not saying to reduce her hook cooldown to 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, so she can fly around like fucking Spider-Man. What I want is a 9-second cooldown. A 9-second cooldown is a happy medium to every single one of her counters. Winston still has a 6-second cooldown. Genji still has an 8. Diva would be 7 after, well, 5, I guess, but takes her 2 seconds to fly. So every single other counter that she has still has the advantage, but Widowmaker has a higher chance of getting away. So that deals with mobility, but Widowmaker has bigger issues, and the biggest issue she has is her ultimate ability. Like I said before, Hanzo guaranteed has his radar arrow up for 50% of the match, whereas Widowmaker does not, and that is her ultimate ability. That's absurd to me how that is even a thing. So how do you buff Widowmaker's ultimate ability without making her overpowered? Also, how do you buff Widowmaker without weakening every other hero and fucking up the meta and just making some crazy game change? I think I have found a good solution. This is just my opinion. This is something that I have thought up. Now, what if when Widowmaker uses her ult, she gains her eyes for 15 seconds, nothing changes, her radar stays the same, but she is able to pierce shields. What this does is, with the introduction to Orisa, that's another shield in the game. If she's able to pierce an Orisa, she's able to pierce a Reinhardt shield, a Winston shield, and a Symmetra shield, only during her ult while scoped in. That would make her very viable on a ton of different situations. You can make some crazy pushes with her, like that would be a fantastic ult, but you're still required to make your shots. If you're not hitting your shots, then it's pointless. So that maintains the skill requirement to play Widowmaker. Like I said, high risk, high reward, but it doesn't drastically change the game, because if there's a diva on the other team, now she can use her matrix timed with a Widow shot, because you can see when a Widowmaker scoped in. You can hear when a Widowmaker uses her ult because there's a voice line that happens in the game, which I think is silly to begin with, but if it's there, this makes it very fair. So the enemy team knows, okay, this Widowmaker has eyes and she can shoot through our shields. So I'm going to make sure that I'm up front with the Reinhardt or whatever the deal is, you know? So the diva is up there, her matrix can work, it'll deflect the shots or whatever. You can make sure that the Zarya is up there with her bubbles ready to roll. Like, this changes the aspect of the game while maintaining the fairness of it and keeping the high skill requirement. So that's kind of my idea. I think that is a great idea, but I want to know what you guys think. Let's have a conversation about it. Do you think Widowmaker needs a buff? Does she not need a buff? If she does need a buff, what would you do to change? What do you think would make her better? What would make her fair? I mean, in all reality, I think she needs about 400 armor, 200 shield. She needs twice as much damage. I mean, that's the only fair way to make Widowmaker. But let me know for real though. I want to know what you guys think, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.